Morning, students. Welcome back to the world of business studies. We are discussing about chapter number 5, organizing. This is part 9 of the same. Next would be the last part of this chapter. Let's discuss about the topics which we have discussed. We have discussed about what exactly the delegation of authority is. Then we discussed about process of delegation and elements of a delegation. Process of delegation, that is responsibility, authority and accountability, and that as it is a process, so sequence does matter. So the elements of delegations are also same, that is responsibility, authority and accountability. Today we are going to discuss about the importance of delegations, and importance is effective management, employees development, motivation to employees, facilitates growth, basis of managerial hierarchy and better coordination. Let's discuss about all this point in detail. Before we discuss any of the points of delegation of authority's importance, we'll just let's get the idea why there is a need or importance of delegation of authority. Now, in the previous session itself, we have discussed that delegation is required to perform all the activities of the business organization smoothly, because each and every manager, though they are very well qualified, experienced, knowledgeable, skillful and talented, then also they won't be able to perform all the functions of organization by their own, because they may be master in one or two skills but not the master of all the skills, and they won't be able to reach to the each and every corner of the organization. That is why he or she requires the help of the subordinates to work his or her own capacity. So, this delegation will provide the opportunity to the managers to delegate some of their routine or non-core activities which are repetitive in nature to the subordinates, and can help to reduce his burden from those activities and can focus on the important areas. So, the need or importance of the delegation of authority can be explained with the help of the points which we are going to discuss. First point of importance, effective management. Students, as we have discussed in the introduction part itself, that the delegation of authority will help the managers to pass on their routine, non-core and repetitive activities on the shoulders of the subordinates. So, up to that extent, manager can free themselves from the burden of all these routine, non-core and repetitive activities. He would be free up to certain extent, and he can utilize this saved time into some constructive activities like providing training to the workers, finding a new area of the improvements, can think a better idea for the better management, and will be able to focus on the area which are of the priority basis for the organization and can be performed by the managers itself. If we take the example that in the school structure, If the principal will keep on sanctioning the leave of each and every teachers, then he won't be able to focus on the management part of the school. So he delegates this authority of granting a leave to the teachers onto the shoulders of his subordinates, that is vice principal, HM, or maybe up to the academic in charges. So he would be able to focus on the other priority area which can be performed by only and only principal. Second point, that is employees development. Students, now in our school there is a concept of a prefectorial team. Now, before you are made the prefect, you are given the authority and responsibility of in charges, monitors. This is what the delegation of authority of a prefectorial team to the subordinates, that is the monitorial team. Now, this increases the enthusiasm amongst the monitorial team. It motivates all of you, all those who are the monitors. It will help them to develop a higher knowledge, skill, and when this knowledge and skill is developed, then quite possible the next year you would be promoted to the position of the prefect. Maybe all those who are the monitor, amongst them there would be one monitorial person who would be given the position of the head boy and deputy head boy and so on. So this delegation develops the enthusiasm amongst the subordinate. It motivates the employees to develop themselves for the higher position, like this monitorial team will try to develop themselves so that they can fix, they can specify, they can secure their place in the prefectorial team, because the chance which is given to them, they will utilize it properly and they will show their skills and talent to prove that they are the excellent in performing that particular job. So this leads to the employees development. Next one, that is motivation to employees. Students, whenever the delegation of authority takes place in any organization, then under this, whenever manager will share his responsibilities and authority with the subordinates, this will automatically motivates the subordinate, because they feel that as the superior has shared his responsibility with me, it means I am considered as one of the team member in the management. It develops the sense of belongingness and the trust which has been shown by their superiors on the subordinates. The simple sense of belongingness and trust will help the employees to work at their highest efficiency, because they are motivated by the simple act of delegation. And if we discuss about the Indian culture, then employees can be motivated with the help of financial as well as non-financial incentives. Then the few employees who are easily motivated with the non-financial incentives, the delegation is the best incentive for them, which increases the motivation of employees. The next one, that is facilitates growth. Now, whenever we adopt the process of a delegation and whenever the manager passes his responsibility to the subordinates, it is not passed randomly. Before passing off the responsibility and authority to the subordinate, superior will divide the work or delegate the authority on the basis of the qualification, experience, skill, talent, and capability of the subordinate. When the delegation is done on the basis of all these qualities of a subordinate, it will lead to the division of work and specialization. And whenever we adopt the division of work and specialization, that will definitely lead to the growth of individual, which will result in growth of an organization. So in this manner, delegation facilitates the growth of an organization. Now next one on the line is basis of managerial hierarchy. What is the meaning of this managerial hierarchy? Student, managerial hierarchy means in the order of the sequence or in the chain of authority, who is subordinate, who is superior, that is considered as the managerial hierarchy. Let me remind you one thing, students. While discussing about the scalar chain, we have discussed that except the person sitting on the highest position, all other are superior as well as the subordinates also. So, the delegation of authority will help to determine that who is the superior, who is the subordinate, and who will report to whom and who is answerable to whom. Because under the delegation, the person who shifts or passes his responsibility on the shoulders of others would be considered as the superior, other is considered as the subordinate. But under delegation, there is a redelegation concept also, that is the subordinate to whom the responsibility and authority is passed can further delegate his authority and responsibility to his subordinate. In this situation, delegation creates the chain of superior-subordinate relationship, which becomes the basis of managerial hierarchy. Let's understand the same topic with the help of one example. Like in school structure, day scholar housemaster is responsible to manage the activities regarding the day scholar students. Now, he will shift certain responsibility on the shoulders of the day scholar prefectorial team. Now, the prefectorial team will also shift his responsibilities on the shoulders of the monitorial team. This is considered as the re-delegation, as the prefect whom the delegation was done by the housemaster has delegated his authority responsibility to the monitorial team. This has created a chain of superior subordinate relationship like housemaster, housemaster to prefectorial team, prefectorial team to the monitorial team. So this will create the basis of managerial hierarchy. The final one, that is the better coordination. Now, while discussing about the process of delegation or the elements of delegation, we have discussed about the responsibility, authority, and accountability. Students, this all the elements of delegation clearly defines the duties, powers, and answerability attached with the various position in the organization. Like in the previous example, what would be the duties of powers and answerability of the day scholar housemaster? Same goes for the prefects and same goes for the monitorial team. So this element will clearly define the powers, duties, and answerability of each and every person involved in this chain of superior subordinate relationship. Now, as everything is clarified, this chain of superior subordinate relationship helps in avoiding overlapping of the duties. There won't be any kind of the duty which would be duplicated or that particular activity would be missed. There are no chances of certain things, and this will result in the better coordination amongst the various department of management, and better coordination always leads to increase in productivity. Let's discuss about the difference between authority, responsibility, and accountability. The first one, that is the concept. Authority. It is a right to take decision and power to give command. While discussing about the authority, we have discussed that only right to give command or only right to take a decision doesn't becomes authority, because authority is the combination of this both the thing. If one of this is absent, it cannot be termed as authority. Next one, that is responsibility. Responsibility, it's an obligation to perform the assigned work. And finally, the accountability, that is an answerability on account of performance. We have discussed, students, that though the delegation is done, though the authority is shifted to the other person, responsibility to the answer, to reply the answer to the highest authority will always remain with the person who has delegated the authority. Second basis, that is origin. Authority arises from the formal positions. What is the formal position? Like, see, in the schooling structure, principal, vice principal, headmasters, coordinators, academic in charges, and the housemasters. These all persons have certain authority, but the intensity may differ. But this authority is granted to them as they are the part of the formal organization, and it is the position which is created by following the official channel of authority. So it arises from the formal positions. Now, responsibility. Responsibility always arises from the delegation of authority. When the superior will transfer, when superior will share or pass their certain responsibilities to the other subordinate, then the responsibility arises. Now, when we discuss about the accountability, then as it is the answerability of the performance, it always arises out of responsibility. If we take the example, then the housemaster which has delegated to work to the prefectorial team, and prefectorial has delegated the work to the monitorial team. Now, if something goes wrong, then the final responsibility to reply to the highest authority, that is the accountability, is of day scholar housemaster, not of prefectorial team, not of a monitorial team, because the day scholar housemaster was made responsible for the performance of that particular work. Then the next one, that is the delegation. Authority can be delegated, responsibility cannot be fully delegated because the non-performance of the subordinate will make the responsible the higher authority. And when the term comes for the accountability, then accountability cannot be delegated at all because the responsibility to reply, the responsibility to give the answers to the highest authority will always remains with the person who has delegated his or her work. Next one, that is the flow. Authority always flows from top to bottom, that is from the superior to subordinate, which is considered as a downward flow of authority. If we talk about the responsibility, responsibility always flows from bottom to top, that is subordinate to superiors, in the form of upwards. And accountability, it also flows from the bottom to top, but it is not like a responsibility that it is from the lowest manager to the highest manager. Accountability always flows from a higher authority to the highest authority. If we take the example, then vice principal is accountable to the principal for each and every activity performed at the school level. So accountability also flows from subordinate to superior, but over here from higher to the highest authority, that is the upward. Now the last one, that is the withdrawal. Now authority can be withdrawn by a notice. Whenever a certain authority is granted to someone at any moment of time, after following certain legal procedures, it can be withdrawn. Like the person who has delegated the authority, with the immediate or after certain time, he can withdraw the authority granted. Responsibility, that cannot be also withdrawn because the person is made to work for a certain task, and it is the obligation of that person to perform the assigned work. And when the matter comes for the accountability, as it is the final responsibility of the higher authority, it cannot be withdrawn at all. It always lies with the higher authority which they have to perform. Let's discuss about the difference between delegation and the similar concept, that is the decentralization. This delegation and decentralization are almost similar in nature, yet it differs from each other. Let's discuss about the points of differences between delegation and decentralization. The first one, that is the concept. Concept stands for definition, and the delegation means to pass on the decision-making authority and freedom to the subordinate to do some special or specific task. Whereas decentralization means a dispersion of the decision-making authority at the various levels in the organization. Now, it is very much important to understand this difference clearly. Delegation is always for a particular period of time and for a specific task, whereas decentralization is for a longer period of time and it is a permanent dispersal of the authority, responsibility and accountability. Whereas delegation is dispersion of authority, responsibility only, and that is also for a specific period of time. Next is purpose. The main purpose of the delegation, that is to simply share the burden of the senior by the subordinates so that the subordinates can perform that work and the superior can be freed from the burden of this routine work. Whereas the purpose of the decentralization is making the employees, making the subordinate so capable so that they can perform the work independently without the reference of their immediate senior for instructions or the guidance. When the organization realizes that the subordinates are able to perform the task independently, at that time this decentralization is followed. Total number of the persons involved in the delegation are only two. One is the superior and the another one is the subordinate. But when we talk about the decentralization, there is a group which are involved. That is the top level management and the lower level managers at a particular level. That is, if the decentralization is only of a two level, that is top level and middle level, then only two groups are involved. If there is a three level but the decentralization is between the middle level and bottom level, then also there would be only two groups which are involved. So in delegation, two persons are involved. In decentralization, two groups are involved. Next basis, that is nature of control. Under delegation, the person who has delegated the authority will keep a close eye on the activities of the subordinates and checks that the subordinate performs the work as per the instructions. Whereas in decentralization, the top level management will keep a general watch on the activities of the subordinate to whom the authority has been granted. Next one, that is the withdrawal of the authority. At any moment of time, the person who has delegated the authority can take back if the person is not performing the work properly. But under decentralization, once the authority is decentralized, then generally it is not withdrawn except exceptional cases. Next one, the dependence. Now, delegation of authority is not dependent on any other functions of management. It can take place whether there is a decentralization or centralization. Now, if we talk about the decentralization, then decentralization cannot take place without the delegation of authority. Status. In delegation, the status is simply, it's a process. That is such a process in which senior just shares or pass their routine activity to the subordinates. Whereas decentralization is not a simple act. It's a philosophy of the management in which the top management disperses the authority to the lower management and that lower management can also assume the higher management responsibility. It's a philosophy of management, not just an act or process. If we discuss about the scope, then the delegation has a very narrow scope because it takes place between only two persons, that is the superior and subordinate. Whereas the decentralization has a wider scope because it is the extension of a delegation to the lower level management also. So it has the wider scope. Let's discuss about what we have understood. We have discussed about why there is a need or requirement of the delegation with the help of the importance of the delegation. Then we discussed about the different points which differentiates authority, responsibility and accountability. Finally, we have discussed about the main points of differences between delegation and decentralization. Assignment for the day is this. Now it's the time to say bye bye and thank you. Bye bye, dear students. Goodbye. I hope the concept which I tried to explain, you understood it. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. Try to solve all the assignments by yourself. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe, and keep learning. Consider this lockdown period as an opportunity to learn new things and make your foundation very strong. Thank you once again. Bye bye.